So now, first of all, like the paper is similar to a paper which is in 2019. You will be able to get it from the digital library. So I have put the paper number 2. This is the last on-campus paper that we had January intake. So you can try to do this within 3 hours and practice to get that time, right? So now the aim of this today's revision session is not about like how to write the answer for this paper. It's how to study, right? How to study any subjects in the campus, right? So if I like once I complete this session, you will be able to see how to analyze a question structure and how can you prepare for that. So first of all, I'll put this link to the Zoom so you can go there and observe this table. Now this is actually like a studying principle and any question that we are going to design in any industry. Like for example, if you go into a university like MIT, IIT and those kind of universities, so number one of the top universities in the world, they design papers like question papers based on this template. So we call it as Bloom's taxonomy. So we call it as updated version of it. So this is the cognitive process, like remember, understand, apply, analyze, and evaluate and create. So now what I want you to focus here is the Bloom's revised taxonomy model. So the reason that I'm explaining is this is actually designed using that taxonomy. So you will be able to quickly study and get the idea clearly if you study this taxonomy. Okay. Now the basic thing about something is like this. Now early version, if you want to remember, like for example, one single question that like we learn how to compile a Java code, right? So how to compile a Java code, can you remember and tell me what is the way to compile a Java source code? What is the command? Can anyone mention that? What is the command to compile Java program? Yeah, Java C, right? So you use Java C to compile a program. Java C you use to compile. So that is just you remember it. So this type of questions, like we ask you like state the default value, these kind of things are remembered. You remember from the memory and write it. So this is also you remember from memory. But the second type of question, like explain, if you see a question something like explain, see the keywords, right? State. So this is the question that you need to remember. Like remember means you just remember the default values and put them. Like remember, like we can ask state for double OP concepts. You know, remember that abstraction, encapsulation. Those are remembering type questions. You just remember, you mention it. That's not logical thinking. But if you want to answer a question like something state explain, now you need to go a little bit hard. Let me explain with a simple question, right? Now let's say you are going to learn how to sweep, like how to clean your house using a broom, right? So that is the goal. You are going to clean your house using a broom. First of all, you remember this is a broom that if you use the broom this way, you can clean something. So that's a remembering type of question. You recognize something and you identify it and you can remember, recall. So that is what we call it as cognitive process. That means how you remember stuff. So in our world, if you want to learn something, the easiest, that the first thing you need to do is you need to remember something. So unfortunately, the level of remember might be different from one person to another person. But the usually some questions are there to score some marks. One example is like this. Two questions are in the exam papers are designed to score easy mark for you. Just remembering questions. You remember, you write. So what I want you to focus is when you see question number 1, this is about basic double OP concepts. Like why you use Java, how to compile a program, how the Java is platform independent, so how to explain it, features of Java. So if you remember the slide number 1, you can answer the first 2 questions. So this is slide number 1. So that is how you write the answer to the question. You can see 20 marks are awarded. So that means you will be getting 20 marks for the first question. So basic Java. So how the default values and how to compile a source code which has an error. Now here we have error. So you can identify it. So those are like remembering type coefficient. That means you just remember something, recognize it, and you memorize and recall. Now after you remember something, like you remember that that's a broom to sweep the floor, that is not enough. You need to understand the second type questions. Now this is, you will get a low marks like 2 to 3 marks maximum if you use the remembering type questions. Like these questions are there for any questions. Like if you want to do a master's also, still this same principle apply, because this is a uh, revised Bloom's taxonomy from the like this is from one of the universities in the world, right? Iowa State University. So this is the same structure that all of the university papers are organized. I think you never learned those things before, right? Because that I want you to practice something, right? So if you practice only, you will be able to write a paper. Not only this question, like I want all of you to pass it, right? That's why I want to analyze one question by one question, how to write it. But when you get a different question, you should be able to do that. So that is also I'm going to teach you how to prepare for that. So if you see this Bloom's taxonomy, the link is I gave in the browser. Like let me put it again. The first type of cognition is remember. You retrieve knowledge from your long-term memory. Now your brain has two types of memory. Like if I tell you the kilometer between here to the moon is 5 million. Example, right? 5 million kilometers from here. Then someone asks you again, what is the distance? You say 5 million. So that is a remembering type of question. So remembering type questions get only 2 marks. Like you can see 2 marks are there. So how to know it is a remembering is, you can say state, right, what are the, like if you see question like that, right, then state and what, those are the remembering type questions. But if you see something called explain, so that is actually you need more knowledge compared to that. If you just remember, that is not enough. Like one example is you list the primary and secondary colors in a like if you see the colors, red, green, blue, those are some colors. So if you list and remember them, so that will be your first type of questions. So remembering questions. Now in your your advanced level or O level, your primary school level, they taught you how to learn the remembering questions. Mostly remembering questions. That is why you memorize. But that is not bad. But that is not enough to solve a problem in the real world, right? As a software developers, software engineers, you should be able to evaluate something like that, analyze how to differentiate between this and that. So then only you will be able to like apply something new. So the first goal of it is to remember something, small thing, and recall it from your memory. Practice this. You just answer the what type of a question, like state, what, those kind of questions are remembering questions. Now the second type is that is not enough, right? So you can say that you can remember fact, like color of what are the colors of primary colors, or you can remember the concept, like remember what are the like symptoms of COVID-19. You can say that you get high fever, you get cough, those things. Then you will learn how to proceed, like how to perform CPR, like kind of a thing, right? So how to, let's say, remember how to measure a temperature from a temperature sensor. Then metacognitive means you remember from some information. Like if you just remember something, those are the first type of questions that will be able. Now, can you open the paper and tell me what are the remembering questions that you can see in the question number 2? There's no right, because all are saying explain, explain. So this is also an kind of application theory. So second question, usually you don't have remembering type questions. All are application level questions. So let's go to the third question. So here also, okay. Now this is a remembering type questions. See, one row back of array list. So those are remembering type questions. Another example I will explain. See, this is a remembering type questions. You just remember something from the paper, you discuss. So this is from the last week lecture. Open it, you can see that what are the untimed exceptions examples. So this is a remembering type of questions. So those are the easiest type of the question that you can write. So then that we need to go more than that, because that is actually university level is you expect something different. So after you remembering, you need to understand the meaning of that messages and the meaning of the keywords that you remember here. Like now you know remembers of the features, like what are the features, like whether you have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, but you need to understand why it is there. Like imagine you have iPhone 14. Let's say there's a version called iPhone 14 release in next summer. Now you just remember the features, like you have a A16 bionic chip, like kind of things. You just remember. Then after that, you need to understand why that chip is there. What is the features, like why that feature is there? What is actually dual core, and what is the meaning of M1? So if you can summarize like meaning of them, so that is the second type of questions, understanding questions. Like that is how you apply them in a factorial memorization. Let's say one example is like there's another understandable like concept. So you need to understand why the coughs are there. Like if you have COVID symptoms, why there's a cough, why the temperature is rising, you need to understand. Then you need to understand the process, like for example how to measure the temperature of a body using the Celsius meter. You need to understand why you put that under your arm, why you can't put it inside there. So you need to understand, and you can predict something. You can say that this is understandable question. So how do you know this is these type of questions in a paper? Very simple. So if you see a question something like explain, that is actually uh, understand question. So you need to explain why we call Java generated programs as write once and run anywhere. So those are understandable questions. You can't just remember it. You have to understand the logic behind that. Are you getting like so is my voice clear to you, all of you? Like is there any like kind of a wing kind of happening to you now? Is that like there's a noise happening, right? Now is it fine? Okay, so anyway, right, okay. Now so if you see something says explain, you can't just write the theory. You need to like write using your own words, like what is the difference. So what did you understand by that? Like you know the command, right? So once you remember the commands to compile the program, you need to remember why you compile like that. So to generate the bytecode, to execute it in platform independently. So that is how you remember. So explain how to write once and those things. You can mention as the understanding type questions. So one example is if you see something to call explain, these are understandable questions. Okay, remember this question is not there in your syllabus because we didn't do the multi-threading in this time. Instead of that, you will get another question from the Java classes, right? Instead of this. Uh, so if you see something explain, like describe, those are the questions of understand, right? So then after you learn that as well, that is still not enough, because that is the next type of question. So you will get something like 2 marks for the remembering, 2 marks, 2 marks CLI. So the most marks you can score is going to apply. So if you can apply to a scenario, like if you can respond to a given question based on the something, so that is an application level question. Like application level question, something like a advice carry out, So how do you understand application level questions in a Java question? This is a application level question. Syntax error fixing is application level question because you have given a code. You need to understand where's the application. So how do you apply them? Okay, there are some errors. So how do you find them? So those are application level questions. Now most of the Java questions that you will get more marks are for the application level questions. So like writing Java codes are application level question usually. So you will get more marks for the application level. Since you are first year, you will get more questions from the application and these three level compared to the last two. Then when you go to the second year, now these you really see in the first year question papers like if I ask you to analyze between why we use threading compared to the other one, then if you can understand which one is better, so you will be able to answer the fourth question, like analyze type question. So one example is you need to differentiate between let's say Android and iOS, and you need to understand what is the major differences. So if you want to deconstruct how it is created, so that is how the analyze type questions are there. So most probably when you want to do analytical questions like speed of an algorithm, so when you go to the second year, you will be learning that. But now the most analytical question we can ask you is like compared to C and Java, what is the speed like? Which one is actually the more fast? So you have to say that Java is actually interpreted line by line. So that is why Java is kind of slow compared to C, but it is platform independent. So if you want to compare two products, those are analytical type questions. Now, in your first years, you will never see questions like this. In your first year, evaluate and the create type questions, you will not see it in your first year. But when you go to the second year, you will get a lot of questions from your analyze and the evaluate part, but not create, right? That is not, they are still in the second year. So analyze something like the differences and you need to evaluate based on the criteria standard. You need to judge something. But when you go to the third year as your research, like you are going to do something new in the third year UOB year, the Bedfordshire, when you go to the Bedfordshire degree. So you have to invent something new. So that is the last type of a question that you will be getting in your third years. So this is for your third year research, create type of question. Now you learn something, you know how to evaluate, you know how to analyze. Then at the ultimate goal of something is whether you have learned up to the maximum level is create something new. So like from the Java, if you can invent some new languages like new frameworks, that is how you learn that you have learned something new. But those kind of questions are not there for your first, second years because you need to develop some knowledge. Right? Now there's a reason like now in the psychological studies, right? Like there's a reason why we don't do some degrees in under 2 years because like the main reason is like your brain is not able to capture these all the concept within these years. Like there are some fast forwarding degrees like fast forwarding methods, but those are like shortcuts. It's not teaching you the correct way of doing it. Like we are not expecting you to study 4 years and wait and these things, like that is not how you're doing the things today. But if you want to get the full idea, your brain needs to develop at least 4 years to get the full capturing of these four concepts. So that is why, so in your question papers in your first year, you will not be able to see a question like this. So the maximum level you will be getting is analyze and evaluate, but real in Java you will be going to this level. So if you can remember and like write questions up to this application level questions, then you will be easily pass the subject with good grades. So now, do you understand how we design a paper, all of you? The Bloom's taxonomy, is it clear? All of you? Now let's write the answers for that. So is it clear that what we discuss here? So try to remember this part, right? So this is how you design a paper, right? So you can apply it for many of the, like, it doesn't matter whether you learn here and there, you can do a master's or PhD, but this table is actually what you will be able to ask questions. Every university is learned that, right? So when you go to the University of Colombo, they have separate questions from these each categories. Like we design them. So that is how you design a paper. You can't ask random questions in a paper because we want to test you something in every aspect, right? Like we don't ask you to question on remember all the time because that is just a memorization, right? You need to apply something. That is why the code is there. Okay, so let's start to write the question. So question number 1 is from the model. Question number 1 is from the lecture slide number 1 and 2. So I'll just state the lecture slide. Just remember where to study. It's from the slide number 1 and 2. Like basic features of Java, object-oriented concepts, default values. So you can mention them. So what are the default values? So like, okay, how do you know that Java is platform independent? How you know that Java write once and run everywhere? So how to write the first question, Samson? Can you tell me? Question number 1. Any idea? So how to write question number 1? So that is a now remember this is actually explain type of question, that is understanding. Now when you write a Java code, remember that is platform independent. Why? Because of what? One thing. Why it is platform independent? Using one concept, you will learn that is platform independent. You can run the bytecode anywhere in the world. What is that? You need to have two things. One is virtual machine. With the help of the JVM and the bytecode, you will be able to achieve this. Write once and run anywhere nature. Like you write the code and compile into a bytecode. So you have to mention it, right? So you write a source code in Java language, then you compile it, so you get the bytecode. So then bytecode can be run anywhere if you have the Java virtual machine. So you get 2 marks for that. Simple. Bytecode and the virtual machine. Now what are the default values for the primitive data types? Can you remember what are the primitive data types? What are the primitive data types in Java? You should mention, right? This is the 15th week. So what is the data type in Java? First one, integer. Second one, string is not a primitive data type. Remember, string is not a data type, it's a class. Right? If you remember, write and string as example, you get 0 mark, right? Because that is not a default value for the primitive data. So integer, byte, short, then long, float, double, char. Boolean. So count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the primitive data types in the case. Now what are the values? What are the default value? By default, what is the value you get? Integer, if you don't assign any values, what is the default value you get? Oh, 0, right? This is 0, this is 0, this is 0, this is 0. Like can say this is 0L because it's long. Float is 0.0F because to indicate it's a float. For double it is 0.0D, but that is optional. Char is actually like empty string, empty double quotation, or you can say slash U00. This is how you put the default value, and the boolean is false. You will get 2 marks if you can write this as an answer. Very simple question, right? Like first 2 questions are there for you to get some marks easily. Everyone should be able to score the marks because that is the in the Bloom's taxonomy remembering and the understandable type question. Then you have something called identify. This is a application level question. Now can you tell me what are the errors that you can see here? Can you find the errors here in this program? Yeah, very good, right? Plus mark is not there, right? This should be plus mark. You would get 1 mark. So there are 4 marks here, right? So that means 4 errors are there. Find 4 errors. One answer is given. So the second error is where? Yeah, we need to convert this into integer, right? What is the thing we need to do? Integer dot pass in. That you need to do. So that is the error number 2. So this is the error number 1. This is the error number 2. Where's the other error? This is the other error. S capital. Math bracket. That is actually not the case. That is not an issue because this is a constant, right? It's not a method. That is not error. That is not the error. But error is there. But one more error should be there. Phi is not a math operator. That is working, right? You can try it. This is not a problem. Method phi is working. Error is not there. Where's the error? Yeah, this is the error, right? Math functions are in double format. Either you need to convert into double or you need to convert this into casting into float. So that is how you get 4 marks. So let me mention the errors here in the notepad. So if you want to write the first error fix, it is radius equal integer dot parsing, right? So there are many errors like that. You need to fix it how to compile it, and so that is error number 1. Second one, you need to convert into double because the math functions are double. You don't have to do any brackets or something because it's work. Then system out dot println S capital. You'll get 4 marks, right? Answer is so plus sign should be there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is how you get the full marks for the question like this. So is that clear, all of you? The part is clear to you? Yes. Okay. Second, the these question will get 2 marks. So these questions are very easy for you. Can you write the answer for the question number 1? So it's the bracket the order of the operators. So can you tell me what is the final answer? So this is application level question. These are also application level questions in the Bloom's taxonomy. Now already you have scored 4, 6, 8 out of 20. 8 marks is already gone. Now here, if we do this, now remember those who got at least 10 marks in the midterm, you only need to score 30 out of 60. Try to score that. You will easily pass the subject and do the final project, right? Otherwise, that is our goal. So some says A is 12. Any other answer? Do like this, right? 2 plus. Let me write it. It's like this name. 2 plus 3 multiplied by 7 multiplied by 8 minus 7 multiplied by 2, right? Plus into integer you need to convert it because otherwise method power is actually always double. 3, 2. Now what is the first thing you need to evaluate? Can you tell me what is the order? What is the first thing you need to evaluate? What is the first thing you need to evaluate? Bracket, right? You need to do the brackets. So forget about this. You need to do the brackets. Let's start with that. So in the exam paper, you just, now this is just easy paper, right? The question final paper is very easy if you do it correctly. Now in the bracket, what is the first thing we need to evaluate? This bracket. So that is 8 minus 7. That should be what? 1, right? Right. So then this is 2 plus 3 multiplied by 7 like this. So what is the order we need to execute? Now in the second line, what should we do? Now this is, I don't watch it, it's same exact. Now what we need to do in the bracket? Multiplication, right? Because multiplication and division in the same line, but we need to do left to right. Because multiplication is the next priority. We don't add. So I'm going to write like this. 2 plus, we do the multiplication. 3 plus 7 is 21. Multiplied by 1 is 1. 21. So plus this one. So that is the next part. So now 21 modulus 2, what is the remaining one? What is the remainder? 21 modulus 2, what is the remainder? 1, right? Very simple. So this should be 1. And this is method power 3 into 3. Now this is actually 2 plus 1. So it is 3. Now method power 3 into 2 is what? 3 to the power 2 is what? 3 to the power 2 is what? 9, right? Very good. So that should be 9. So 3 plus 9. So what is the answer? So all of you got this as answer. I think one got it right, 12. Yeah. So there's a question like this. Remember that. Try to score them up. Okay. Second question. Now how to write this question? Now forget about the answer is, but we need to evaluate this part. So how do you evaluate it? So you need to convert 12 and 9 into binary. So 12, 9. So the question is like 12 and percent 9 or get 7. So 12 and 9 or 7. So that is what we do. Now what is the answer? So what we need to do first? Convert the 12 into binary. So that is what we need to do. So what is the value if you convert 12 into binary? 9 into binary. Can you mention them? Yeah, you need to convert this into binary. So this is 12. This is 8. So what is 9? 9. How to make it 9? Like this, right? So what is the answer if you say 12 and 9? What is the answer? Now if the both answers are 1, the answer is 1, otherwise 0. So now here is 0. This is 0. This is 0. This is 1. So this is the answer. But that you need to add the 7th value. That will 0, 1, 1, 1 into the O gate because that is the 7. So this is 7, right? So what is the answer? So since it is an O gate, any answer can be true, otherwise the answer is false. That means any of the answer is true, answer is true, otherwise false. So it is 1, 1, 1. So what is the answer here? All 1. What is the converted value? What is this value? What is the converted value? Yeah, very good. 15. That's the answer. So you'll get marks, 2 marks, this question. So E question. So where you get the most marks, the National Blood Donation Bank, right? So you have a number like this. Donation identification number. Now you need to say this component is 3 digits. So question 1 is based lecture 1 and 2. Yes, very good. It's 1 and 2, and the last question is based on the string. The question is from the string class. This is from the string class. Yeah. So can I write this question? So I'll give some time. So let's open the NetBeans. Now in the exam you have to write it by yourself. But to speed up the process, let's write a simple program. So I will not discuss all the questions. You can try to do it by yourself. But I will discuss some of the main questions that you can easily score marks. Let's create an empty question. Now here it says there is a string given G XXX 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 and 3. So this is a 3-digit integer. It's like this kind of a number. Now you need to write a Java program which takes the DIN number from the user and string in both, and you need to print whether it is valid based on the given format. So the program should also print the facility based on the first 3-digit section according to the table. Now, if the first 3 digit is 3 and 2, it's Colombo. Then 415 it's Candy, 796 Jaffna. So you get this kind of a question. Your DIN number is valid, and your blood donation facilities, you can say 415 is Candy. So now, how do you decode the value like this? Okay, let's forget about this and write a simple scanner class to take the input. So scanner. Now you don't need to write a package statement in the exam because that is not needed. Scanner system mode again. So I'm going to take the import string din is equal to star next. So this is a string I got. Now we need to decode it. So what is the method we need to use? So what is the thing we need to use? Here. Now we have a number. Now we need to decode it like this. So how do you know whether it is valid or not? No, we need a for loop. That's correct. But we need to do we need to separate this part. So how do you separate it? We learn in the strings. How to separate something from the space bar? What is the thing we need to learn? Substring. This is substring. How to separate something from the space bar? So there's a method we learn how to separate it. Not index of. That is incorrect. Like it's actually taking one by one. We learn a very simple technique. You don't need to go there. It's split, right? The method is split. So if you want to separate by that, so you have to write an array paths equal din divided by split by space. Now how to validate this? Okay, so if you write split, you will get some marks, right? Now this is how you score that 10 marks. Taking input some marks, splitting some marks, Now that is not enough because you need to get the first 3 digits. What is the first 3 digits? How to get this part? Which index is there in the array? This is in which index? So this is the 0th index. G is 0th index. So index number 1. Very good. So it's in the index number 1, right? So let's write index number 1. Here we can write it. So we can say number part equal din, sorry, the paths index number 1. Now this is an error. Why? Because this should be a number. So how to convert string into number? So how to convert this into number? Integer or pass, right? So you get marks if you get the number part extracted. So if you can write this part, you will get another 2 marks. 2, 2, 2. So you can see that how marks are allocated, right? 2, 2, 2. Already 6 marks is scored. Now we need to score only 4 marks now. So how to score that? Now how to validate whether it is actually these 3 digits? You can write if condition, right? Like if. Now first of all we need to check the length, right? If the length is not now if we have a correct format, this length should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Like if you don't have a 5 number separator, that means that is incorrect format. So I should get the length also to calculation. Now I'm going to get the length of this array. I can say integer length is equal to that parts dot length. We can validate whether your number is invalid if the length is actually equal to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If the length is 6 only, we can validate. Otherwise, it is an incorrect number. So if you split by a space, if the length is 6, that's fine. Else it is incorrect. You can say invalid. But if it is length is 6, then we can validate if this number is actually equal to 312. So you can write a switch case also, that is fine. So you can print this part. Your DIC is valid. And you can print the number, right? What is that? Column. Your blood donation facilities column. You can write that facility column. Don't worry about the spaces and spellings because I write too fast. This column. So likewise, you can write 2 else ifs. Four 1 5 7 9 6. This is candy. That's not. So is that clear now, everyone? So this is the full answer for the question. So to write this formatted, why there's error? Like you can now here it suggests this is not a good way convert into if case. This is also correct. So this is how you get the rest of the 4 marks. So full then. The question is now completed. And question number 1 is completed. So 20 marks is already there. Now if you want to convert it, if you done the question number 1 correctly, so 20 out of 100 multiplied by 60 out of 60 you will get 12 marks. So that means you need to only score 18, right? 18 marks more from the rest of the paper to pass the subject. Is that clear to you? All of you? All of you, is that clear to you? Smart? So make a note. I'll give some time to grab the idea. So this is the analytical question, right? Yes, if you write the relevant code, that is fine, right? Here to here, if you write it, that is fine. The expected code is enough. You don't need to write the main method and these things, just the main method and this part. What is relevant part, you will get the marks. Okay, so the first question is done. So let's go to the second question. Now this is from the question number, why it is split? Because why you need to split it? Because you have space here, right? Here, look at it. There's a space. We need to separate it. So can we put split through like this space input? Can we put split to string? I didn't understood that. What is the to string like? What does that mean? Can we give an example? Now here you need to convert it, right? Otherwise you can't compare number. So that is why I converted it. So otherwise if it is string, you can't compare directly, right? You have to use a compare method, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It will split it, right? Even if it is string, it will split it. Now that is what we discussed in the lecture, right? You can split anything between spaces or dashes, hashtags, anything you can split. Yeah, so I'll put the recording if it is one, right? Because even my power cut is there. I'm not sure whether it is 11 o'clock. Let's hope to do it like try to do many questions as possible. Okay, question 2. Public abstract reptile class. So this is the template. Second question, another 20 marks. No, it should split it, right? You can try it. It should work. Like one example, I don't need to teach this part. Like you can hard code it and test it by yourself, right? See, like this, and you can split it. Now this I don't have to do it, right? That means you didn't write the question, right? That means like coding, we can't teach you how to practice it, right? You need to practice. Without practicing, you can't learn coding. So it is t dot split, right? This is the same way you can split strings. It doesn't matter. Put a space. Now this is how. If I bring the piece second element, let's extract that part only. See, it's combined. See, It's working. Split it out, right? So which program would you get? So show me an error that you get or issues that you get. Get input. That mean you mean from the keyboard, right? Like if you get it from the keyboard scanner class, same thing, right? Sorry, double quotation. Okay. Now here you need to take next line, right? Because if you got a space, that is what we discussed in the lecture, right? Next line, if you want to run it in a, if you want to take inputs which have spaces, that's the case. If you want to take a sentence, you need to take next line. That is the error you get. Is that the question? So otherwise it will not work. Like you can now see it, right? See, now it's working. Right, that's the additional stuff. Okay, now question number 2. Right, so question number 2 it says, which of the following statements are true about the above code? Now it's abstract class. Now remember, if the class is abstract, now this is from the lecture line number 6, that is from the classes. If the classes can be abstract, what is the statement? Can you tell me? Now this is you need to answer. I'm not going to answer it. Which are true? Try to do the question number 1 or 1 to 4. 1 mark each. What is the value? What is the value? If it is abstract, can I extend the class? Yes, child classes can be created, right? If you make abstract, the child class can be created. So this is true. You can create child classes. We did. When you look at the recording of that week, I have explained you how to get the, like we create a separate chart, right? So if you put abstract keyword in front of it, you can create a child class. But you cannot create objects. This is true. So you, the first one is false, remember? First one is false because it says that cannot be created. So this should be false. So first one is false because child class can be created if you make it abstract, but you can't create objects like instance. So we call it, it's false. So this is false, this is true. The subclasses cannot override the getVenom class method. Yes, that's true because method overriding is not allowed if you make it final. This is true. And the fourth one, instance variable name, yeah, this one cannot be visible to subclasses. Is it true? Third one, yeah, third one is true. Fourth one, third one is true. Fourth one, if you make it protected, will it be visible in the child class? Fourth one false, right? So that's the answer. 4 marks. So this related theory you need to learn it, right? So this is from one question. You can see where the question comes and you can see what is the differences. So question 2 is from the like object oriented classes, right? After the midterm, the first lecture, after the string lecture, that is I think slide number 7 or 8, I think 8 to 9. The week number 8 to 9, I think. That is from the classes, objects and classes. That we get questions. Objects and classes. Right? So that's the answer to the question number 1. Now here, what is the output of the following program? Now look at this program and remember this method called 2 times. Play with value, play with value. One method is static. Now what will be happening if you make it static? And tell me what is the final answer. Like we discussed the entire question, 1 hour is gone, and we completed almost one question, even with a lot of discussions. So the paper you can try to do it within the 3 hours if you practice. So try to do this paper first, then try the other papers. So what is you just create an object and call it, right? Now we just call the method. Here means you just call the method, creating object and call it. You don't have to like we don't have the right hand side, left hand side. That's the only difference. Now this method is called two times, right? That is how you create object. You create object, from the object you just call the method. So what will be the value? Now if you want to answer this question, you need to create two boxes, right? One boxes is for M. So in your paper, take some rough works and box is for N, like two variables. Initially it is 90, initially it is 1. Now we call the method first time. What will happen to the M? M is 6. What will happen to M? What will happen to M? So I means like okay, now you can hear me, right? Now what will happen if you try to print sample.n? Sample.n means this class.n, since it is static variable, what will print? What will be the one that's going to print? Yeah, it's 1. So I'm going to put the output as 1. So but in the next line you print M. So what is the value of M? M is 9, not 90, right? Because we updated. It's 6. And N is incremented. Now N is incremented. So N is incremented means N will become 2. Now when you create a new object and call it, what will happen? In the second method, what will happen? Will the M is now 6 or different? Remember, it is not static, right? M is not static. So that will what happen? Yeah, it's different, right? Look at it. Now M is not static. So therefore, M will be reset back to 90. Now M will be reset back to 90. So that means, let me erase it. So in the next object, like in the line number 2 that I'm going to draw here this part, M will be reset back to 90 because it start with a new object. But what happened to N? Will it N start from 1? Will the N start from 1? No, right? Because it is a static method. So in that case, N will be 2. It will permanent. But M will be reset back to 90 and make it 6 in the next line. So and print in the N. So N will be 2. 2 will be printed. and the last one m will be 6. So the final answer will be 1 6 2 6. So is that clear? So remember, since it is static, it will not be like it will be a permanent one for the second object as well. Is that clear? Right. So 4 marks will be given for 4 answers. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 outputs, 4 marks. If you got only 2 correctly, 2 marks will be given. So like that is how you given the answer for the question number B. Is that clear? Okay. Third one. Now this question is not there. It's a out of the syllabus question. Don't do this question. The last one. Instead of that, there will be simple question based on that. Now fourth one, how to do it? Now this one I will not discuss because this is basic loop question. Can you write a program and show it to me? I'll give some marks, like time to do it. So it's 8 marks. You need to use nested loops. Try to print this pattern. And this question I will not give answers because you need 2 for loops and try to think it. So 8 marks is there. So you can write 1 for loop to print the asterisk and another for loop to print the number. 2 for loops is the key. I just gave you a hint to do it. That is how you're going to do the question number 2, the last one. So now we have already completed 20 marks. Here also 20 marks. The 40 marks is already gone. So if you calculate it, out of 100, if it is 40 you scored, if you multiply it by 60, already 24 marks is now you have. You need to only score 6 marks from the paper to pass the subject. Because 30 plus, if you score 10 for the midterm, 40, 5 for the paper, like the from your project, you will get 45 and pass. So try to do question number 3. 3 question. This one, can you tell me what is the way to print the order to print the array in the reverse order? Now there's array given. So how to print that array in the reverse order? So try to think. Yeah, it's very good, right? It's D, right? So you need to print from the last index to the 0th index. So last index is not length, it is length minus 1 to 0. So we'll get 2 marks like this. Now there's a table that you need to represent. You need to print it in an array. So how do you print it? Question number 3. So you need to store this in a 2D array and store it and print the average price. So how do you create an array? Like here, this is how you do it. So we start with a string array because it's a string that we can store, right? Nothing else we can store to store the numbers. Like we can't mix the data types. In that case, we have to store it in the array. So string array. Let me write it. That's the say 2D array equal as a data equal. So we can put square brackets. So this is how we can create a simple array. Amazonia. So then this one, then the price. Price also you have to put double quotation because this is a string. 675.85. That is the first row, comma. Second row, likewise we can put the values. Third row, fourth row, fifth row. So you put the array with the values that we mentioned here. So you will get like 2 marks if you create the array like this. And you need to travel using a for loop and another for loop for travel the columns. So this is how you travel the rows, data dot length. You want to travel the columns, data, so it's I, right? So this is how you travel the columns. So you got the recording of the arrays lecture. You can do this part. Now, how to calculate the average? Now let's create a variable for that. Total. So we need to get the value part. So in that case, I need to score the total plus equal data. So it will be ith first index because that is what we need to get. Always ith first index should be given. That should be, we need to convert it into integer as a float. So it is float dot pass. So that is what we discussed today, right? We converted something if you want to do calculation. Now once you calculate the total, and we need to count how many values are there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 values are there. So you can keep a counter like that as a, and finally the average is this total divided by the value. So how many values are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is 4.0. So that is how you score the marks. So if you complete this part, you will be getting 10. Right? So I just quickly mention it, like you can store it with the one of the techniques that you have mentioned, that's renames the values to that table. Simple way you can transfer the data into the average. Is that clear? So make that now. Like it's up to you, right? So the if the supplementary marks, like if you satisfy with like that score mark is like that, because you need to score the remaining marks from the final paper, so that's a little bit difficult. So I recommend you try to do it like as a practice, because if you score less than 13, try to do it. But if you are in the borderline, then it is not needed, right? Because only 1 mark is actually less than that, then it is fine. But if you are like 8, like 7, like these kind of marks, that is what I try to get that marks that you score, right? Uh, yeah. So then, can you tell me what are the drawbacks of array list? Yeah, the supplementary we don't know, right? There's a curfew, right? All the exams are postponed. I think it will be shifted like most probably, like at least if the situation calms down, right? I can't guarantee that. Like we can expect it from next week on. It like for at least next week the supplementary, the your final exam will be postponed by another 2 more weeks. Like it will be shifted, like 1 week shifted until the situation completes. Like we'll not bring you into the slate until the situation is okay, right? Like we don't come to the slate as well, right? In these days, because like if the situation goes worse, there's no buses to go, right? Like until the situation calms down, like practice and stay alert, right? And do the project in the meantime. So then you can have the time to do other things. So they have good timetable on the 17th, but this not happen, right? That's not going to happen because we have the supplementary on that week. We couldn't complete the supplementary, right? So that means the supplementary will be shifted to this week, and your final paper will be shifted to that after that week, like that. I think what is the date that Java was supposed to happen? What is the date in the Java exam? The 27, right? Yeah. So yeah, so you can see the accordion time, right? But not that week, right? Because like if there's no curfew and the situation calms down, so only we can have a exam, but not on that week because supplementary has been postponed, right? So this week not you don't have the normal exam. It will be if the case, right? We can't guarantee that. So if the situation calms down, we can see the supplementary this week, remaining one. Otherwise, your final exam will be shifted another week, like another week. Likewise, it goes there. Okay, can you give me the answer for this question? Array list drawbacks and what are the meaning of these two methods? Those theory questions from the arrays. The main drawback, because array list cannot store normal primitive data types. That is the one of the drawback. And usually array list takes more memory. One example. So only one thing is the array list can only store. It cannot use primitive data types like integer double. You have to use the wrapper class, that integer capital integer, like the array list. They can only store if you want to create array list. So they can only store the wrapper class. The wrapper class is the class that we described to convert the values into integer double or float. So they can't store integer. So they have to use the class integer class. That's the drawback. So then, what are the meaning of this get method and the last index of method? Can you try to mention that? Are there two questions? Try to complete it. Yeah. So the entire third question is from the array. So it's 2D arrays and the array list. So this is the array, like get is to get an element, and last index is to get the index of the last element in the array list. So that is what the answer is. It's to get the last index, and this is to get the element that we given in the index to get an element. Now try to do the fourth question. Now this is another 4 marks. Create an array list at a random number and set the third element and print it the second index in the array list. Try to do this code. So once you do this, we have finished first 3 questions. So if you can try to do the first 3 questions, so you can see 60 marks out of 100 is equal to 36. You already score more than the pass mark. So then you can score the other 2 freely. So that is how you plan an exam paper. Not blindly studying the paper. You need to analyze the question as well. Yeah, I'll upload that part. Yeah, so how to create an array list with initial size of 5? So let's try to create it. So array list, you can use the array list. Let's put a random integer number. So since it is an integer, so now you need to write the import statement. That is only how to get the marks. Import statement list equal new array list. So you'll get some marks to create the array list. Then but initial size is 5. So you put the size here. That is how you set the initial size. So first question is completed. So 2 marks, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 mark is gone. So initial size 5, and 5 random integers between 1 to 100 into array list using method random method. So how do you use add method? Let's say listed at random numbers. So method random. So this is just a random number, but you need to cast it into integer in order to make it integer value. So you need to multiply it by 100 if you want to make a number between 1 to 100. Then finally cast it back to integer. So 5 random numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how you add 5 random numbers. So 1 mark, 2 marks. So then the third question, set the third element in the array list into 0. So what is the method? How to set the index change? List dot set. So third index into what? 0. So you will get another 1, 2, 3 marks. The last one is print the index of the second element. So element number 2 is actually you can say that list dot get. So second one we need to print it. It's the second index. You can print it like list.get. So you need to only write this part and the import statement. You can write the main method if you want. So you will get 4 marks if you write this. So the third question is finished. Is that clear? All of you? I think there's a power cut in my area soon, so I'm fast forwarding it now. Try to write it quickly. So what will happen if the supplementary are less than? Yeah, the max marks you will get the maximum marks, right? If your score, your midterm marks is higher than the supplementary, you will get the midterm mark. The whatever the highest mark, you will take that. Right, so you will get 5 marks, sorry, 4 marks. So then the first question, like that third question is completed. So you need to only answer 2 more questions. Now fourth question, can you guess what is the question? It will be there. This is from the exceptions and the for medical issues you can score highest mark. Yeah, if you score medical, like if you given the medical submission, you will get the full marks, right? It doesn't matter, right? If you have a medical, make sure if you have a medical, submit it to the like the administration. Yeah, this is the fourth question, right? What are the runtime exceptions in Java? State 1. Yeah, this is exception handling, right? The last week lecture, and this is for unit testing. Now this question is very simple question out of the other two. Try to write what is the runtime exceptions in Java. Can you state some reason for this? Can you give me an answer for the first question? Number 1. So write the first question's answer. So this is a theory question. So 2 marks given. So what is an runtime exception? Explain them. Now the second question, you need to write a try catch for this exception handling framework. So that might be occurring. So this 6 mark is very simple. You need to only put try catch here, right? But you need to identify what is the error type. So put a try catch. Surround the entire code by try catch. But what is the exception type that we get? Can you identify it? Anyone mention the exception that we get here? What is the exception are you getting? This is length of a null. So what is the exception we get? What is the exception I get? Tell me the class name. We discuss in the lecture. So what is the class name we get? So this is, you need to put a try catch, right? Not bad. So if you put it, it's like this. So you need to put a try and the catch, put the surrounding code between them. So if you just write the exception class, so this is like this, and print the exception, you will only get half of the marks because this is capturing every exception type. So what is the exception if you try to get the length of a null value? You can print it and see. So this will be null pointer exception. So if you capture the entire code, you put the code here and print there like you can't put null values here. You will get 6 mark out of it. It's very simple question. Just put right, catch, identify the exception category. If you just say exception, you will get some marks, but some marks are missing because you need to capture all the type of errors. Like in here, there's another type because you can't pass cartoon into a number. So in that case, we need to write another catch as well because it's the 2 exception categories. So in that case, this is the first type because it's a null number. I try to get the length. The second type is, you can write the second one is actually integer pass. This is number format error. Number format exception. So if you capture it using these 2 catch blocks, you will get the full marks. Otherwise, if you just say exception, you will get only half of the marks, like 3. So that's the answer. Like there are only 3 categories. You don't need to find it. Like if you see like trying to convert a number which is not in the format, that is a number format exception, and try to get the length of a null value, null point exception. Try to access an array index which is not in the list, that is array index out of bound. And if you try to bring the exception, like for example, if you try to get a number divided by 0, so that is arithmetic exception. 4 categories are there. Only those things you need to identify. Like other exceptions are there, but we are not after them in the final payroll. Either this or this, or the array index out of bound exception, or you can see the other 2 we explain in the lecture, and the number arithmetic exception. So you can see the format according to that. Like here, you can see that we try to convert cartoon into integer, that is not valid, and this is you try to get the null values length, that is not allowed. So it's runtime error. It will compile, no problem, but it will not run. It has the problem. Yeah. So can you mention what are the important features of JUnit testing frameworks? We discuss these things. Can you mention them? See, these are just remembering type questions, what and state. So 1 marks is given. So application level questions are given some marks. Now write the answer for these 2. I will not give it. So what are the features and the meaning of them? But I will do the D question. This is I will explain this. The reason is because this is easy to score marks. So like those who need to score marks, I will tell the places where you can easily score marks. One question is this one, because easily you can get the marks. You try catch block. And another question is this one, the array list, and this question. Then the number format printing one. So these are the things like you can score the marks. So other questions we have to try it, but this question is very easy. The exception handling question one and this one. So let me tell you. Like if you get a question like this, don't worry about the method. You need to only worry about how the inputs are given. So these returns a double value, and you need to have an array. So it says find max method. You need to do a JUnit testing, 10 marks. So let's try to write a JUnit test. let's create a class max number. Now, budget. So let's so this method is given. You don't have to write that method. So that is what we state. Don't write this method. It's given. And the purpose you don't have to worry about that as well. So it's public static double, right? Double find max. Now how they find the max? Now imagine I don't worry about it. I didn't write the code. I just explain just as a template like this, right? It says integer numbers. Now here this is what I mentioned, right? I imagine there's a method given, right? So this is the method that given by the program, like class max number static double. So don't worry about the given method because it doesn't have any point. But remember the return type is double, and what are the inputs? You should take an array. So these are the two things that you need to take from the input. So then that's enough. Now have a double input and the array. I will not write the inner components. That's not important for a unit testing. So like you need to write this only under the test package. Let's create a new package. Don't write a package. That's enough, right? You don't need it in the final paper. You need to write only class. Let's say test max unit test. Say max unit test. So what is the line we need to import? Now imagine your POM file contains all the dependencies. We use the dependencies here, right? Here the dependencies. We have this dependency, right? Can put the dependencies here. Now imagine what is the line you have to import. So you will get 2 marks if you write this import statement into your final paper. So JUnit 504, it doesn't matter if you write the correct import statement, you get 2 marks. So what is the first method we need to write? Anyone mention it? So what is the first method we need to write? At what? We learn it in the lecture. First one, at before all. This one. So we can say publics. This should be a static method. So you will get 2 marks if you write this method correctly. Publics static void create max. So I'm going to create object from that max class. So in this case, we are import the maximum from the package, but in the exam, you don't need to import it. Just directly write the code. It doesn't matter. It's lk dot Fleet Academy main project maximum. That's what we import. Also, this is public. So I'm going to say maximum number. I need to create a static object. M equal new maximum. Now you will get 2 marks if you create the object. Just creating the object in the before all method, you will get 2 like this. So then before second method is what? What is the second method? Before it doesn't have a void static case. Just say void. So I can say set values. So I need to create an array and put the values. I can create an array because array should be created if you want to give an input. See, because why? I read it. Here you need to take an array and give inputs for the find max. Right? If I give an array, this kind of array, and I need to put it into that M. I'm going to say, so let's say double answer. I'm going to say this answer is equal to M dot. Okay, imagine this is the maximum method. Imagine this static is like static method is there, but now here we can just directly call find max, or you can just directly say rather than creating object, we can just say the array like the class name dot also is possible. Like you can use the class name because it is a static. You can say maximum number at 5 max because this method is static, right? Otherwise, you can create the object name. So let's use the object name. The answer is now there. So another do marks, setting the values into the array. Now in the test method, public void test max. So we know that assertion method is what we need to check. So if you check the assertion that asset equals, or you can use asset null, asset not null, likewise. So this is the actual value answer, but what we expected is actually we get the 12 as the maximum from it because 12 is the max here. If you get 12, that is correct. Otherwise, it is different. So remember the order. So you can see the actual and the given value is, you can control space, expected value. I'm expecting 12 as the value, but the actual value is the answer we get here. So you will get another 2 marks here. So 2, 4, 6, and this is another mark 7. The last method is actually write the at after each. So delete the array. So public void clean the array. So I'm going to set the answer 0, and my array should be also 0. Like array is not there, is there. So it's answer we just need to set it to 0. And the do marks. The last method is to delete the object. I can say after all, since it is static, I'll make it static. That this array should be deleted. This maximum number is m. M should be null. That is how we do it. And this should be delete object. So this is why I said it's easy question, because you need to remember only the template, right? So the, for each test, after each, you need to do what we need to do in each stages, and how to test it. You will get the full marks in that case. So if you do that, so you can watch the recording and post what we have done here. Then it is complete. 10 marks. Already 80 marks is gone. Now this question you should be able to do it, right? Just creating object and creating a class, inner class, nested class. That's what we see in the lecture and the labs. Yeah, there's a power card now at the moment in my area. So I will leave the last question for you to write, right? This is from the nested classes and the child classes, and print into the screen. So I will leave the last question for you to write at home. And if you have like, you can try to do the questions, and if you have any questions, you can send an email and prepare for the exam. So this is the end of our discussion, because now we have power issue in our area. So try to do the fifth question, right? So now I have given you the guideline how the final paper looks like. So this is look like your paper number 2. Like additionally, you can do the all the papers in the digital library, like some kind of a model paper. Like this is 2017 paper for earlier intake. You can see how you can practice more questions from the template and validate it. So you can try them as well. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So I will put this today's recording into the Moodle. So you can do the last question. Yeah, so it's the same template as your final actual paper. Only the questions, some questions are different, like some questions a little bit similar. Except the question number 2, this is not there. You don't get this question. Multi-threading is not there. We didn't discuss it. That was not enough time. So we'll have a like another lab for your database connection to the SQL project. So after the final exam, so prepare for that as well. So do the last question and come. Right. So if you have any questions, you can ask me and send me an email as well. So that's it, right? So see you on the next like uh, we will meet it on the when you do the project. That's a lab we will do. So good luck for the exam, right? So thank you very much for all to participate today. I hope you get something out of it. Yeah, it's a written paper. Final paper is a written one. So practice these things. Any other question you need to ask? So any other questions that you want to ask? I'll put the recording today. So now the power is not there available at the moment. Any other questions? Okay, so thank you very much. Then do the question paper. So then we can finish the session.